right, Megan. Speakers are on.
Let's see if this works. Testing. Testing. Okay.
I haven't gotten a message yet. I'll check.
Are we expecting John? There he is. Ah. Speak of the devil, and he stumbles.
Rick? Charles? Sir? How you doing? Good, how you doing? Good, good. Hey, your wife's got a package in the mail parcel. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right, we've got 1 o'clock. Any staff members missing? Can you hear me? I'm going to use both microphones because I've been accused of not coming through the video very well. So we'll see how it works this time. Welcome to a special budget study session today, and I will call this meeting to order right on time, 1300. Let the record show the staff members that are present and that all 4 sitting board members are present. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comments on non-agenda items. Ms. McEwen, please.
Members of the public may address the board on matters not listed on this agenda. The board cannot take action on any item that is not on the agenda. The board or staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed, or may ask questions for clarification. These items may also be referred to staff or scheduled on a future agenda. There will be a separate opportunity for public comment for each item on the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Jiva. We have a microphone for Jiva. Please you speak into a mic for the record if you don't mind. Can she borrow a mic? Is there one? You can have one of these.
You're not using it, right?
I'm using both. Go ahead. Thanks, Anita. Okay, thank you, Jiva. Any other public comments? Right, moving on. Good. Did you have an answer?
Thank you. In answer to the question, the estimate, I want to say 120 loads. And yes, the road staff has assessed the conditions of the roads prior to the mass hauling.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? I don't think there was. Great. Okay, information and discussion item. Fiscal year 2022-23 budget study session. It's another year already.
Yes, sir. And this is my 4th effort on the budget here. So this is a similar process that we've gone through, which is this is a broad overview, gives the board an idea of kind of where the funds are. Certainly it's going to be a better presentation in that context than prior years, fund balance wise and condition. Also we'll be able to show you the items that have been included as capital and so on. So I get to drive. Yeah, I need that one. So real quickly, again, we'll hit the overview, do the review of the funds and their status, and then have an opportunity to answer any questions or have conversation, discussion by the board. So, for starters, part of the approach for budgeting is taking a look at our revenues and making projections on that for all of our various funds, trying to be conservative so that hopefully as we are getting to the end of a fiscal year, we find ourselves in a generally a positive position. But we then have to adjust our expenses to try to remain in that revenue and not, for operational purposes, use fund balance. So we use the term carryover balances here, and that's a remnant of prior budgets that brought the entire fund balance into the budget page as a carryover. And why that was challenging for me was we would then expend more than the annual revenue because we had this carryover. And so essentially what was happening with that design was you were eating into the fund balance, but you weren't necessarily paying attention to the reserves, if that makes sense. So we've kind of changed the formatting to eliminate that. For starters then, we only focus on our operating expenses. So very simply, do we have the revenue to operate the particular division or department or service that we're providing? And then to not yet focus on one-time or larger capital items. Part of what we do pay attention to is our fund balance, trying to ensure that we've maintained our policy as much as we can. And as the board and maybe some folks may recognize, some of the modeling we did on rates didn't always achieve during some of those interim years the minimum reserve balance. We understood that going in, that by the time we got done with the 5-year projection, given the capital and things that we were looking at, we did come out. So the projections had us using that five-year time span to be doing all of the operating and capital and debt service, and then at the end of that period, the rates were sufficient enough to have us creating an excess to the minimum reserve amount. So capital, taking a look at what the needs are from the various divisions and departments, seeing whether we have excess revenues in this particular year, or we could use excess fund balance. One of the things, and I know Jeeva's had questions about the allocations, and so 3 years ago we changed the methodology for identifying cost allocations. And for those who aren't familiar with it, conceptually what it means is that each of our 4 other funds, we have a general fund, and then we have a sewer and a water and a solid waste and a roads. And they should be self-sufficient, self-sustaining. Their rates and revenues from the residents for the services is enough to cover their costs. However, one of the things that they don't have as a part of their own staffing is they don't have a general manager, they don't have someone dedicated to HR, they don't have their own finance department or billing department or accounts receivable, payable. All of those functions are done by administration. So our costs are spread amongst those based on some criteria, which is in our budget, and hopefully the intent here is that people can follow what those allocations are. And one of the things that was a significant difference for me as we made that change was prior to, we had some mostly direct allocations. And when I say direct, what it means is whatever share of my wages and benefits that is attributable to the water department, let's say it calculated out to $20,000. Instead of having a line that said indirect and showing the methodology and how much and why my allocation was that way, it was put into their salaries